Thanks for joining us on The World Now. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Democrats have poured more than $100 million in donations into Vice President Kamala Harris's presidential bid since President Joe Biden dropped out of the race on Sunday. A statement from our campaign said Team Harris raised $81 million in its first 24 hours, adding to the existing near $250 million war chest already amassed this election cycle. During that time frame, more than 888,000 people donated sums of up to $200 each, according to progressive donation platform ActBlue. Donors who had pulled back their funding over concerns about Mr. Biden's age have said they now intend to resume their support for the party. The surge in donations in the 24-hour period after President Biden quit the race was the single biggest for online contributions to Democrats since 2020. Among the major names to back Ms. Harris on Sunday was LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. And Vice President Kamala Harris will not attend Benjamin Netanyahu's joint address to Congress on Wednesday, but will conduct a separate bilateral meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister later this week at the White House. An aide to the Vice President cited a previously scheduled event as the reason for missing the speech on Wednesday. A date for the Netanyahu-Harris meeting has not been announced, but it will be separate from President Biden's planned meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister. The closely watched bilateral meeting will mark Vice President Harris's first meeting with a world leader since Biden stepped aside from his re-election campaign and endorsed Harris' candidacy. During the meeting, the Vice President is expected to underscore a commitment to ensuring Israel can defend itself, condemn Hamas' attack on 7th October last year, and reiterate concerns about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. And Kamala Harris made her first public appearance yesterday following President Joe Biden's withdrawal from the 2024 race on Sunday. She praised President Biden, saying she's deeply grateful for his service to the nation. Vice President Harris has now secured the support of a majority of Democratic delegates to become the party's nominee for president. A survey by the Associated Press on Monday evening said she had received the endorsement of more than 1,976 delegates needed to win the nomination in the first round of voting. That means Ms. Harris is on course to be crowned the party's standard bearer and take on Republican Donald Trump in November's presidential election. It becomes official when party delegates hold a roll call vote ahead of next month's Democratic National Convention in Chicago.
President Joe Biden wanted to be here today. He is feeling much better and recovering fast, and he looks forward to getting back on the road. And I wanted to say a few words about our president. Joe Biden's legacy of accomplishment over the past 3 years is unmatched in modern history. In one term, he has already, yes, you may clap. In one term, he has already surpassed the legacy of most presidents who have served 2 terms in office. And I first came to know President Biden through his son, Beau. We worked together as attorneys general in our states, and back then, Beau would often tell me stories about his dad. He would talk about the kind of father and the kind of man that Joe Biden is. The qualities that Beau revered in his father are the same qualities that I have seen every day in our president.
We'll return to that conversation in the course of this bulletin, but let's tell you that the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations traveled to Port-au-Prince on Monday to meet leaders of the Haitian transitional government and the Kenyan police. Ms. Thomas Greenfield made this meeting as part of a one-day visit to encourage action on Haiti's humanitarian crisis and the political reform leading to democratic elections that have yet to be scheduled. Ambassador Thomas Greenfield announced $60 million in additional humanitarian assistance to the Caribbean nation, where she stated the USAID package, which now totals more than $165 million this fiscal year, would fill gaps in nutrition, food security and shelter, as well as improve water and sanitation services and provide Haitians with cash to buy basic goods, with additional mine-resistant vehicles. As gangs are now estimated to control up to 80% of the capital and surrounding areas, with the UN agency's report of 580,000 people displaced and resulted in 4 million people facing food security. The Kenyan police will train the Haitian National Police for joint security operations that have not yet begun, according to official sources.
We're committed to working with Kenya to ensure personnel continue to act with integrity and transparency. Now, I've said that the MSS and the United Nations Integrated Office in Haiti, BINU, is mutually reinforcing. And so I'm proud to announce that the United States, through USAID, is providing an additional $60 million in humanitarian assistance to support the Haitian people, alleviate the suffering caused by gang violence and political instability.
In the Middle East, at least 89 people have been killed by Israeli strikes around the southern city of Khan Yunis. It comes after Israel ordered the evacuation of part of a designated humanitarian zone ahead of an operation against Palestinian fighters who have apparently regrouped there.
On Monday, Gaza's health ministry had said 70 dead people and more than 200 injured, many of them in serious conditions, had been brought in to the already overwhelmed Nasser hospital in the west of the city and appealed for blood donations. The Palestinian Red Crescent, meanwhile, reported that nearby Al-Amal hospital, which it runs, had received another 5 dead and 33 injured. 14 more people have been reported dead since then. The medical organization also said its clinics in the town of Man and Bani Suhaila, which are both located about 2 kilometers east of Khan Yunis, had gone out of service because of the Israeli evacuation order. The IDF said on Monday evening that an operation above and below ground in Khan Yunis had begun. Much of Khan Yunis was destroyed in an Israeli offensive which ended in April. But large numbers of people returned after troops began an operation in nearby Rafah in early May. At the start of this month, they were displaced once again after the IDF issued a fresh evacuation order for other eastern neighborhoods of Khan Yunis, as well as nearby towns and villages, including Bani Suhaila. Israel has also carried out several deadly attacks in humanitarian zones in the past 2 weeks, which it has said targeted Hamas and allied forces operating there. In a separate development on Monday, the IDF confirmed the death in captivity of 2 more Israeli hostages based on intelligence information. Israel says 116 hostages are still being held in Gaza, 44 of whom are presumed dead. There are another 4 hostages who were kidnapped before 7th of October. 2 of them are believed to be dead. The IDF also said on Monday that it was looking into a report that Israeli forces had fired a marked UN convoy that was headed into the Gaza city.
And Palestinian factions, including rivals Hamas and Fatah, have signed an agreement on ending division and strengthening Palestinian unity in Beijing. China made the announcement following reconciliation talks which it hosted involving 14 Palestinian factions starting Sunday. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the agreement was dedicated to the great reconciliation and unity of all 14 factions. Beijing has sought to present itself as a potential peace broker in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met on Sunday evening for the first time with the families of missing and captive Israelis from Hamas's October 7 assault on Israel, amid harsh criticism by relatives that government has forsaken those being held in Gaza. In a statement following the meeting, a forum of families with loved ones believed to be held hostage in Gaza said that Prime Minister Netanyahu had vowed to work for their return as soon as possible. We have more stories from around the world, but that's after this break. Stay with us.
Marina station and all the passengers. Efficient, it's comfortable.
This development will go a long way in reducing congestion and emission.
The trains are a long-term solution to Lagos traffic challenges.
This is where we take the final, decisions on policies, programs of government that will have to ensure that, the narration of Lagos as a PLC is taken very, very seriously.
This is a major pedestrian bridge linking Oyinbo here to Apapa Road over there.
With this overpass, we are providing what we call a permanent solution.
This place is one of the most dangerous areas at the biosecurity environment.
This can go into the news and every crumbs of your neighborhood.
Our goal is to remain as Africa's model megacity, to move our GDP from the 5-6 position to the 3rd position, and we believe it's achievable with all the commitments we have.
Explore the city of Lagos, where dreams are made and possibilities are endless.
Amade
Doja Salamadini, I live in Lagos, inside Lagos.
TVC News Weekend Lineup. TVC Breakfast Saturday with Kemi Fola Adeyemo and Emmanuel Ajayi. Political Standpoint with Precious Amayo. Newsweek with Mark Otabo. Politics on Sunday with Femi Akonde. Community Forum with Sarah Yeku. Get ready for the biggest stories, fresh perspectives and burning news discussions that round up the weekend. Only on TVC News.
And thanks for staying with us, everyone. We're back discussing updates in the United States ahead of the November election. Joining me now is a diplomat in residence at the School of International Service of the American University, Owen. Mr. Wayne, thank you for joining us again. Well, Mr. Wayne, if you can hear me, Kamala Harris, we saw her raise more than $81 million into campaign coffers in just one day, and some have called it perhaps the largest single-day haul of any presidential candidate in history. Is this an indication that the nomination is being widely accepted within the party?
Yes, I think there's great enthusiasm for the change of leading candidates here. There's a lot of appreciation for Joe Biden and affection, and people thought he did a great job in his first 3.5 years, but they were very worried that he would not be a strong candidate against Donald Trump. And so this outflow of money, plus he already reportedly has the pledges of the support of enough delegates to be nominated and elected by the party, is an indication that people feel they now have a fresh breath on possibly winning this election going forward.
All the 23 Democratic state governors, we understand, have publicly backed her, including several who had initially considered potential rivals for the nomination. What do you think can change ahead of the convention in a month?
Well, I think we're going to see Vice President Harris now out on the campaign trail on a regular basis, and so she'll be establishing impressions with the people, and we'll see what the reaction is to this. We also need to see, as the Republicans are trying to regroup, how they're going to attack her. We know that there will be a number of attacks that aren't based on policy, that will probably be based on her performance, on her background, on what she brings to the office that she's been in. But they're reformulating how they're going to come after this. And now it is Donald Trump that is by far the oldest candidate. And in fact, now that Joe Biden is out, he's the oldest candidate to be running for the presidency of the United States. So that whole age factor, which weighed heavily against Joe Biden, has now shifted to Donald Trump.
Very interesting how that changed really fast. But I was even saying that Kamala Harris will still need actual votes during the convention. You don't think the support will wane? You don't see any surprises springing up ahead of that convention?
Well, you can never tell about surprises, but so far, nobody has indicated that of note that they are going to challenge her. It's been pretty amazing, this rapid shift and lining up behind her as a candidate. As you indicated, there are a number of people now that are being considered for vice president. There's a vetting process going on that's being led by former Attorney General Eric Holder, I understand, among the candidates. And so they'll be working on that in the days ahead. But I think the Vice President Harris, is going to be out on the road on a regular basis, presenting herself, explaining her positions, now that she's in the limelight.
You know, prior to Joe Biden stepping down, Donald Trump had played down on Kamala being a potential threat to him winning this election. Seeing how things are turning out fast, well, do you consider this contest a fair match if she officially gets the party's nod?
Well, I think it's still going to be close until we see a number of the polls taken going forward once she is the candidate. Right now, there's this initial very positive reaction from the core of the Democratic Party and Democratic voters, but we'll need to see how the broader American public responds to her. And of course, she is going to be trying to be attractive to those voters in the middle, to a number of suburban women who used to be sort of available for the Democrats. And also, I think what we're seeing is that she is going to get a lot of Democratic supporters off the couch, as they say. People were worried that people were so unenthused and so worried that they would stay home. Similarly, for younger voters. But there seems to be already a lot of activity on social media by younger voters expressing enthusiasm.
So I guess time will tell if the party can make good use of the 3 months, about 3 months remaining, and if the time will be enough to get the most votes on election day. But which do you think will count more? Biden-Harris' performance in the past 3.5 years, or the fact that we're looking at the highest-ranking woman ever in American politics and the sentiment of having the first woman to lead the U.S.?
Well, I think people are going to be looking forward on the foundation of what they've done in the past 3 years. And so for the Republicans, that means they will be attacking things that they thought the Biden-Harris team messed up on. They didn't do well. For the Democrats, that means they're going to say, look at all that we did as a Biden-Harris team in the last 3.5 years, and this is what we're going to do going forward. We have a new, youthful, fresh vision to take forward for America, a positive vision for America, and they will attack the Republicans for having a very negative view of where America is.
Interesting days ahead. Diplomat in residence at the School of International Service of American University, Owen. It's good to hear your thoughts on these stories every time.
My pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Elsewhere, Secret Service Director Kimberly Chiatu testified on Monday before the House Oversight and Accountability Committee about the security failures that allowed a 20-year-old gunman to open fire on former President Donald Trump and a crowd of his supporters at a rally more than a week ago.
bottom of the stunning security failures that enabled this 20-year-old lone gunman who borrowed his father's AR-15.
That was part of the opening statement of the chairman of the House Oversight and Accountability Committee as he grilled the director of the Secret Service, Kimberly Chittle. Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer told Ms. Chittle directly that she should resign, saying that with her at the helm of the Secret Service, it is questionable whether the President, First Lady, White House and presidential candidates are safe.
And we are concerned the Secret Service lacks the proper management to keep protectees safe from bad actors. Americans demand answers, but they have not been getting them from the Secret Service. We are instead learning about new facts about the events surrounding the attempted assassination every day from whistleblowers and leaks. Americans demand accountability, but no one is yet to be fired for this historic failure.
Ms. Chittle, in her opening statement, called the attempt on Mr. Trump's life the Secret Service's most significant operational failure in decades and vowed to move heaven and earth to get to the bottom of what went wrong and make sure there is no repeat of it.
The Secret Service's solemn mission is to protect our nation's leaders. On July 13th, we failed. As a director of the United States Secret Service, I take full responsibility for any security lapse of our agency. We are fully cooperating with ongoing investigations. We must learn what happened, and I will move heaven and earth to ensure that an incident like July 13th does not happen again.
Ms. Chittle acknowledged that the Secret Service was told about a suspicious person 2 to 5 times before the shooting at the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. Yet, Ms. Chittle remained defiant that she was the right person to lead the Secret Service, even as she said she takes full responsibility for the security lapses.
Let me state unequivocally, nothing I have said should be interpreted to place blame for this failure on our federal, state, or local law enforcement partners who supported the Secret Service in Butler. We could not do our job without them. We rely on the relationships built over years of working together to secure events. I have spent 29 years in this agency. I came up through the ranks. I've secured events for every president since President Clinton, supervised on Vice President Cheney's detail, led our training center, oversaw all of the investigations and protective visits in the state of Georgia, supervised on Vice President Biden's detail, and the agency's entire protective mission during the Trump administration.
In a rare show of unity, Democrats and Republicans were united in their exasperation. As Ms. Chittle said, she did not know or could not answer numerous questions more than a week after the shooting that left one spectator dead.
And last week, Chairman Comer and I came together to reach for that higher ground. We made a joint statement condemning the mass shooting and assassination attempt against former President Trump as a grave assault on our democracy. As we wrote, we are united in condemning all political violence.
The attack on Mr. Trump was the most serious attempt to assassinate a president or presidential candidate since Reagan was shot in 1981. Ms. Chittle took over 2 years ago as head of the Secret Service's 7,800 special agents, uniformed officers, and other staffers whose main purpose is protecting presidents, vice presidents, their families, former presidents, and others.
And finally, on the world now, in Colombia, concerns have been raised over the potential hunting of hippopotamuses, specifically in the Medio Magdalena region of Antioquia. Franklin Portillo Gomez, the mayor of Porto Triunfo, highlighted that since a 2019 resolution, the government has considered 3 actions, with hunting being the easiest and most economical option. However, he mentioned the noise and discussions around the national government possibly selecting this 3rd option while expressing hopes for relocation over hunting. And that's the world now. For more updates on the stories we're monitoring around the